So today we're gathered here to talk about how we are driving the Kenya's development through startup ecosystems. And we've heard in the morning about the startup bill and even the state of the ecosystem here in Kenya. We are going to continue this conversation, and I would like to welcome the chair of ASSEK, Dr. Robert Karanja, to come and talk to us on how we are doing with that. So Robert, karibu sana.
Good afternoon. Are we together? Let me see. Just wave at me so that I know whether we are in the same room. You know, sometimes technology, we can be in the same room and you are in another conference in Geneva. So, and guys in Geneva in this room with me. So, but to start with that question, because I was asking the same question earlier today. What's the difference between a startup and an SME? And I think the definition which I thought I'd hoped would have come out from the startup bill discussion of you're looking at several parameters. Technology is just one of them. And so for me, my preference because I try to simplify my life. I'm not as bright as half the people in this room. So what I try to do is I come up with very simple definitions that tend to work for me. So I can share with you my secret. What I say is this a company that for it to succeed, it anticipates and it's built around the concept of venture capital. Because then you realize those kind of companies that are built that way are able to do things in a crazy way. So for example, a company like Uber, you might find to this date has never made a profit, but they are one of the biggest companies in the world. Amazon did not make a profit, did not even break even for the first 10 years. So for that kind of entrepreneur, what keeps them going and what makes investors back them is because what they're doing is they say, I'm going to sacrifice profitability to create market value. And market value is measured in the valuation of that company. If that company was to be taken to the stock exchange or something, how much would you buy it for? Or how much would the entire share holding of the company be? So it brings some very different dynamics into how you look at entrepreneurship. And sometimes it actually frees you to be able to do things that you cannot do in the more traditional sense of entrepreneurship, where profitability is the key, or even cash flow is the key. There are people, Amazon was bought out by Google at how much? By Facebook, yeah? WhatsApp was bought out by Facebook at what valuation? Is it 9 million? No, it wasn't 1 million. 19, yeah. That time they were not even making a single coin. So those kind of dynamics happen when these guys, what they did is they said, forget it. I'm not interested in forget even profitability. They were actually saying, I'm not interested in even revenue. I'm just going to create market value, and then cash out. And so these kind of entrepreneurs are crazy. They work like a dog. You don't have a social life. But within 10 years, if you are successful, you're set for life. You do an exit that is worth all that sacrifice. And then you have others that are even crazier that get addicted to that lifestyle, like Elon Musk, who does it for like 4 or 5 companies. I don't know what steroids he's on. But in any case, that's kind of my quick, easy way. It's about building market value as opposed to profitability and cash flow, the kind of normal constraints for SMEs. So my main talk was to talk very briefly on the role of ESOs in ecosystem building. So we've already spent most of the morning focusing on the legal policy framework. It doesn't take ESOs to do that. It takes the legislative. It takes totally different kind of stakeholders to build the ecosystem. And for me, if I could start with just again, what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is understanding who are the stakeholders that make up the startup space, the startup industry. Founders are critical. We also have the people we call the knowledge base. In Kenya, to me, what I have seen is we actually have 2 knowledge bases. One of them is the hubs, the ESOs themselves. What iHub did when they were setting up about 10 years plus ago is they became an aggregator for this kind of crazy entrepreneurs that I was talking about. And they have been enabling them to be able to be crazy by saying, I'll give you the space to work, I can give you a place you can report as if it's an office, and I'll give you the Wi-Fi that you need, and build a culture that enables you to come and focus on doing your crazy thing. And that was amazing. And by doing that, they were able to incubate a lot of tech expertise. People would come and aggregate. People would come and iron would start sharpening iron. And within a short time, we realized that we now have a knowledge base outside of academia. And typically, and the reason I keep using the words knowledge base is because the global economy is not so much driven by whether you have gold or diamonds or oil in your country. It's really just driven by how much are you able to create market value, like I was explaining earlier. And the people who are best able to do it are those who are able to create knowledge. How do we measure knowledge? We measure knowledge in many ways. I'm a scientist, and so my most familiar way of measuring knowledge is in the publications we do in peer-reviewed papers. And those peer-reviewed papers, when I look at it, all the scientists, all the researchers in the world, the work that they do, they actually develop, I think we double the total knowledge humanity has every 13 months right now. Not too long ago, it was two years. When I was checking this out yesterday, I realized every 13 months, 1 year and a month, the entire knowledge within humanity doubles. So that is crazy. So you have to ask yourself, what does this knowledge really mean? And how can you apply that knowledge to solving problems in the marketplace? And those people who are able to figure out the best way, most effective way of solving problems in the marketplace, then become the millionaires, the billionaires. And the ESO's role within that journey is to be able to build, number one, the talent. And we have a scenario where we have a dynamic that ESOs bring in that's quite unique, where failure is actually a stepping stone to success. And what do I mean by that? Assuming within this room, we have, let's say about every 3-4 people create a company, and all of them have great ideas. The reality is the attrition rate in the marketplace is horrible. The market rate is never forgiving. Doesn't allow you to get away with mistakes for too long. So eventually you crash and burn. But even if there's a high attrition rate, it's a numbers game. You can rest assured we'll have at least 1 or 2, hopefully even 3, of these crazy ideas that actually emerge and become really big companies. They become the Twiggers, they become the Jumias, they become the Cellulant, you name them, Mode. And so within those 3 companies that actually succeed, as they are growing, because they really grow like a rocket, they just take off. And within 5 years, the early investors have already started exiting with 10x of whatever they put in. And they raise the Series B, C, and all that. Within that time, where do they get the talent to allow them to grow at that crazy rate? They cannibalize the companies that did not make it. And so ESOs are interesting because we are not necessarily a university, but our ability to bring together this talent, the ability to make connections happen, the ability to catalyze serendipity is unique to ESOs. And that's why, to me, the ESOs are really just an amazing knowledge base and a powerhouse in their own right. The other one, as I said, is academia. And the second thing is to understand that that ESOs, for us in Kenya, I believe there's a lot more required of us, because our ecosystem is not like the one for the Silicon Valley or other parts of the world. And what do I mean? I mean, it takes capital for me to be able to focus on a company, work like a dog, and not be kicked out by my landlord if I'm not making revenues, if I'm not making a profit. So how do I do that? I need to have seed capital. The key thing about seed capital is you have to ask, who's going to take that early stage risk? And I don't think there's anybody else who is uniquely positioned as ESOs to be able to do that. The challenges that we face as a founder in Kenya, and I think the way it plays out is we've seen us, the Kenyan founders, being dominated by foreign founders, is because foreign founders typically come in with some seed capital. They likely have, I studied in the US. Before I could even apply for a credit card, I used to get a credit card coming into my inbox. And they just tell me, spend, we'll talk later. We'll even give you 3 months, 6 months. So if you are really an entrepreneur that does not even have a rich uncle, you can get 2, 3 credit cards and max them out on your crazy idea. In Kenya, if you are a founder, you honestly do not have those kind of luxuries. So typically we talk of a staircase of funding for these kind of startups. You start with your own savings. We call it bootstrapping. Then you go to family, friends, and fools, the 3 Fs. Then you go to angel investors, then you go to venture capital. By the time you're talking of venture capital, what normally happens is that they expect you to be able to absorb at least $1 million. Because the cost of writing out a check and structuring a deal is prohibitively high. The due diligence is expensive. So in order for you to qualify for venture capital funding, if you don't have the first 3 steps of the funding, it's a bit of a challenge. So ESOs, and the reason it's a challenge is because we don't have a saving culture. If you look at our numbers, I think our ratio of savings to GDP is at about 18%. It's extremely low, one of the lowest on this continent, isn't it? So that tells me that I don't have the savings. I know my 3 Fs don't have the savings. And then the angel investors, we have not created for them, those billionaires that we're asking about early in the morning, we've not created for them any incentives to want to invest in a startup. So where do these startups get money? We need to be able to understand, as ASSEK, how do we fill that gap? So to me, the ESOs becomes the mama and baba. So beyond putting together the talent and accelerating talent, creating a system that allows you to fail forward, we also need to be able to nurture these startups. And the reason that we're able to do it is because we are working with the startups directly in terms of de-risking their ventures, de-risking their technologies, and also having the conversations with the investors that would be strategically aligned with these startups. And to me, those are the critical things that I see the ESOs being able to do. Now, to be able to do that, we can't do it out of goodwill for the West for forever. At some point, that goodwill will win. Everything wins. Even right now, we're being weaned off the Global Fund. We're being weaned off, I was being told, Gavi will stop giving us the vaccines for kids by 2027. So donations do not last forever. And if we as an ecosystem do not understand and appreciate how to build something that creates the goose that lays the golden eggs, then what we end up is being in a situation where we are done for good. And I think, to me, my hope is that as ASSEK, we're able to find ways of rising to the challenge. And I'm saying this because it takes more than just us. It's going to take government to understand how do you deploy capital to these startups. And it's going to take development partners to help us talk to government, talk to other multilateral agencies, so that we are actually able to bring in affordable capital for our founders. Otherwise, what we'll end up seeing is, unfortunately, a situation that is very likely where venture capital brings in foreign capital, they repatriate profits. Founders, if it's only the foreign founders that are able to raise funds, they're going to repatriate their profits, and we move from a situation of aid to trade, and that trade becomes economic slavery. And to me, that is a really crazy challenge that keeps me up at night. So what can we do as ASSEK? I think we do need to be able to think about the ecosystem very deeply, understanding what are the needs of our key client, the founder, understanding what are the strengths of each of the ecosystem players, and also understanding what it is that we bring to the table that is uniquely our core strength, which is 2 things. We can de-risk a venture, we can de-risk a technology. And the second one is that we are able to work with them and to deploy capital, even for a very high-risk company, in a way that mitigates risk for anybody who's investing. And we can partner, especially with government, I really believe that that can actually be a solution that can solve a lot of problems that we're experiencing. I will stop there because I am tired of hearing my own voice. As I said earlier, I love listening more, and I'll ask if I can be able to